Hey, what's going on, man? It's Graham. How you doing?
Great, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. So I've been wanting to talk to you for a while now, but I know with the new show coming up and watching all the teasers on College Humor, I just wanted to talk a bit about that if you had the time.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Awesome. So what you have got going on these days? Obviously, the show debuts on Pop TV in a couple months, but what else have you been doing to keep yourself busy?
Oh man, the show's kept us super busy. Emily and I are like the head writers on it,
Mhm.
so we were writing while we were shooting over the summer, and we shot until like August 20th, and then since then we've just been in post. We've been going to the post production office every day and sitting in on edits and all that. So I'll be doing that after I get off the phone here.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I know the show debuted. I remember seeing the show for the first time and commenting you on it, or complimenting you on it a number of months ago, like at the start of this year, around Valentine's Day. And that kind of started out as a YouTube show. At what point did it turn into what it's eventually going to become as a television show this November?
Well, actually, I think I'm trying to remember our whole history here. It's funny. It like went all over the place. We first pitched it as like a sketch show based on just like the regular sketches that Emily and I had done
Hmm.
at College Humor, and we were writing a pilot for the network because they had picked up like a pilot order based on just the idea. Um, and just kind of in the meantime, while we were writing, we're like, oh, we haven't filmed anything in a while. It had been a few months. I wasn't full time at College Humor anymore. I think Emily at the time wasn't full time. We just kind of wrote the web series in the meantime, and weirdly enough, we were writing the pilot for the show, and then the web series came after that. So in a weird way, the show kind of came before the web series.
What was the inspiration behind the show?
I think, I mean, Emily and I like to play, we like to play big characters where we can do ridiculous things, but we also like to play ourselves and, tackle things that people face in relationships and things that are relatable to us. So the show follows us playing a version of ourselves and kind of follows like a narrative through the night, like on like it's why it's called Hot Date. It's like a date night, and it cuts to us playing other characters throughout the city. So it's kind of, utilizing all of the skills we picked up at College Humor and kind of getting to do everything that we like to do all in one place.
So you mentioned College Humor there for a second. You guys were there for a long time, dating back many years. I remember watching episodes of Jake and Amir that you guys were in for maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even further than that. What was your history with College Humor and being a part of them, and what went into your absence, or rather your departure from the company a little while later on?
I started at College Humor. It was my first job out of college.
Wow.
I started there when I was 22,
Hmm.
and I worked at the front desk, and I kind of just wrote like editorial articles and stuff in my spare time, and I worked with Streeter Seidel really helped me out. Dan Gerwich really helped me out. Sarah Schneider, all those kind of like the cast members that were there, and they were in all the videos when I first got there. And yeah, I started in editorial, kind of bounced around. I started in editorial, then I went to running Dorkly.com, the video game site, and I was there for like another year or two, and then I got moved over to full-time sketch writer. I think that was in 2011.
Wow, so you guys
And then I
had...
did that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no worries. I did that from 2011 until like 2015 when College Humor sold the Middle of the Night show to MTV, and then I was the host of that.
Hmm.
So I left. So I've pretty much been consistently working for College Humor because we did that show, and we're working on this show. So I've kind of been like freelance for them, more or less.
So you said you started out working for College Humor as a writer. At what point did you, when you initially joined College Humor, did you ever any aspirations of being on camera at all? Because of course, knowing you and Emily and the characters you play on the shows and whatnot, Hot Date, you guys are very over the top characters, and it's very fun to watch. At any point, were you aspiring to be on the camera, or was it just kind of something that happened over time?
It's something I wanted really bad. Like when I started, I really wanted to be in videos, and I was lucky that I was there at the time I was, because if you go back and you watch like Hardly Workings or whatever from like 2009 or 2010, if I'm in them, I'm really bad in them, and it took me I kind of had to learn in front of a lot of people. Like I didn't have much sketch or acting experience or anything. So whereas, I think a lot of people may have learned to be a good comedic actor by being in an improv group in college or something, I had to learn that all at College Humor, like on video for a lot of people. So that was hard, but at the same time, it was so nice that I was there at the company at a time when, if they're shooting a Hardly Working or they're shooting a sketch in the office, they might just come grab a random person, and I could get to be in it. But now it's much more professional. Like there is a cast, and everyone who's in the cast are really great writers and performers, and it's more like a TV show. Back in the day, it was like you had your main people; they were all really good, but then you might just go grab an intern, and he might just be in the sketch with you, and that's kind of how I got to be on camera.
What was the inspiration behind your character? Just being super crazy. A lot of people who have watched the College Humor videos from, like you said, Hardly Working, Jake and Amir, shows like that, must remember you and your over-the-top character. Was that kind of like yourself turned up to an 11, or is that just an exterior character, something else you've had in mind for a while that just kind of came through when you were doing the shows?
I think that happened because there was, what was that Hardly Working? There was one where, David Young has a niece. He has a baby picture or something, and everybody's talking about how the baby seems smug. And then I think I come in at the end and I freak out, and that was just. I think that part was just written for me, that I would just come and freak out. And I think Amir thought it was funny, and so he just started writing me into Jake and Amir's being a lunatic. So that was more Jake and Amir, honestly, than me. They were really into the kind of freak out thing and the bullying joke thing.
Now, I know a few years ago as well that College Humor had moved its bases from New York to Los Angeles. At least that was what had been going on with the shows and whatnot. I wasn't too sure about that process. Were you a part of the move-in, or were you already gone from College Humor by that point?
No, we all moved out together. That was in I'm trying to think what year. I think it was 2013. So yeah, I was with the company full time until 2015.
Oh, okay. So in recent years as well, people can also find you, before Hot Date debuted earlier this year, on Adam Ruins Everything. You made a handful of appearances on the show along with Emily. What kind of went into that process? Was that a favor for Adam, or what was the working relationship there?
I know I think it was just a matter of we had been in the sketches with Adam on the site, and I think when Adam took it to TV, I think that the reason he would keep us and keep characters like us, like the kind of people who are the mark, I guess. I think the reason for that is because if it was just, Adam talking directly at camera and stuff, you kind of need an audience surrogate. You need someone there to kind of back and forth and humanize it. Otherwise, it ends up being just someone saying facts to you. So I think that was important to Adam, and sort of the what we added to the web series, I think, ended up helping in the TV show too.
During your time at College Humor, did you meet Emily there, or were you guys already in a relationship prior to that point?
No, we met at College Humor. We actually met when she was doing. She auditioned to be a voice for Dinosaur Office, which I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, that was a great show. Well, short-lived, but it was a great show.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So from there, too, I know it was from a few years ago. It might have been the sketch with Mick Foley, maybe a little bit after that, that I was I mean, I've been watching the College Humor videos for a long time now, but it was shortly afterwards that I discovered you were a wrestling fan from these videos. Like, holy shit, that's awesome. When did you start watching wrestling? What's your wrestling fandom background?
My earliest memory of wrestling is watching it with my dad, and it was I don't remember specifically what match it was, but I know it was during the Jake the Snake Macho Man feud when Jake tied Macho Man to the ropes and Damien bites him. So I remember that being very scary. I remember watching a lot in the early '90s. Bret Hart was my dude. Weirdly enough, most of my memories from wrestling are kind of before the Attitude Era.
Really? Wow.
I watched when later you read books and everything about, this era of wrestling, and it's always just WWF almost went under, it was real bad times, ratings were terrible, and I'm like, that was my favorite time, Diesel and Razor Ramon and everything.
Yep.
I remember one of my favorite wrestling moments was, and it never gets talked about, but it's when Psycho Sid turns on Shawn Michaels. It was Shawn Michaels' first face turn after he'd been a heel for a while, after leaving the Rockers. And Psycho Sid freaks out, and he power bombs him 10 times, and then Diesel comes out and saves him. And it's it was so shocking because Diesel was out. I think he was the champ at the time. So he was this good guy coming out to save this bad guy, but it totally made sense because it was he used to be his bodyguard, so he still has some semblance of friendly feelings towards him, and that's how Shawn Michaels turned face. And I remember that was awesome, and I loved kind of pinnacle of wrestling for me is WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania 10 where Bret Hart beat Yokozuna, and then all of the faces come out and put him up on their shoulders. I was a big fan of the cheesy, real goofy wrestling stuff.
It's great to hear that, and it's so refreshing, too, because like you said, I feel like the cliche answer is, I started watching in the Attitude Era. I was a big Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, The Rock fan, and all that stuff is great. I'm not taking away from that, but it's great to hear from someone that, was a primary fan during that golden age, like you said, when ratings were down and the company was in the crap, whatever. And they had a lot of great stars, from Shawn Michaels to Bret Hart. You mentioned them all right there. And on that note as well, from a few years ago, you guys did a sketch on the channel with Mick Foley. What was that experience like for you?
Oh man, it was great. That's funny is by that point in Hardly Working Out, I've already been doing them for a while, and I was an okay performer by that point. But if you watch that video, I'm not very good at it because I'm so nervous to be around Mick Foley. What always ends up happening anytime College Humor does anything with any kind of wrestler or whatever, the other cast members, wouldn't have the same attachment, so they would kind of get to shoot the shit with them and everything because it's just this is just some guy. He's cool, he's nice, and I would be so nervous. So Mick Foley was so nice to us. He was great. He was really funny. But yeah, I probably talked to him way less than anybody else because I was just staring at him that's Mick Foley, he's right here.
What other wrestlers did you guys have that have you worked with at College Humor? Now we'll talk more about The Miz in a minute because I know you guys worked together on the Middle of the Night show for MTV. Aside from this, what were the other wrestlers that have appeared for College Humor that you had the pleasure of working with?
I'm trying to remember somebody else's kind of video. I did during my early days at College Humor, I did get to meet Stone Cold Steve Austin. Wow. Because what were we doing? We were at the Penny Arcade Expo, which is a video game con. I think it was in 2009 or 2010 or something. We were doing a panel for the new Dorkly website, and we went down and we visited some friends who worked at the Harvard Lampoon, and they do parties and they have guests of honor, and the guest of honor was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And so not only were we at a party with him, but he was the guest of honor, so it was just the writers of the Lampoon and the handful of us that came with the Dorkly crew. So it was like 15 people, and one of them was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And once again, I kind of blew my opportunity to like make friends with somebody. I was just being like, "Hey man, you just shot the Expendables. That's cool." Like fanboying out and asking dumb questions and just kind of hovering around the edge. But yeah, that was cool. And then that's all I can remember off the top of my head.
Well, like I said, you had worked with The Miz, too, just recently in the past 2 or 3 years or so on the Middle of the Night show for MTV. And that one was especially entertaining to watch just because you guys in your respective fields are so over the top and crazy and put on these great characters. It just had this awesome chemistry there, no pun intended. What was that experience like working with The Miz? Was he chill at all?
Yeah, he was great. I mean, yeah, we did a bit with him that was like some like Hulk Hogan type wrestler. We called him America Joe, who's just like covered in flags and everything. He comes out and he's his tag team partner in this tag team pillow fight against these two other guys who were they're in part of like UCB's wrestling league and everything, so they're huge wrestling fans. And yeah, this was like super pumped to be a part of it. At the end, he like betrays America Joe and turns heel and everything, attacks me, takes the mic from me, is like standing up on the bed and cutting a promo. It was really cool to see somebody who, you know, like obviously everybody's seen his whole story, like he was on The Real World and he, you know, was a huge fan then, and then he fulfilled his dream of becoming a wrestler. But just to see someone who, at this point now, has been in the WWE for, I mean, what is it, like 10 or 15 years, like, and he's still a wrestling fan and still has enthusiasm for it. And, you know, I think there's a lot of people who would have been put in that position to do, like, a stupid bit where they had to be pillow wrestlers and then turn heel. They would have just half-assed it. But, no, he was full bore, so he was great.
Yeah, it seemed like you guys had a great on-screen chemistry. Did you guys click right off the bat, or did it take time to kind of develop that chemistry throughout, you know, filming that show?
I mean, again, it's just like one of those things where I'm always like a geek around wrestlers. I always have a hard time, like, you know, making friends and stuff. But no, with Mick, he was just super cool, and you know, we talked a lot too. He's a Cleveland Browns fan, and I'm a New York Jets fan, so we commiserated about having loser teams and stuff, and yeah. A cool thing too about like having somebody on who, you know, I'm such a fan of their work and everything, is that, you know, we've got that common bond of being wrestling fans and stuff.
Speaking of which, I think one of my undoubtedly favorite videos of yours went up a few years ago, right before WrestleMania 31. That could not have been a coincidence. I'm sure you guys did that by design because WrestleMania was coming up. Why wrestling fans hate wrestling. And I'm sure to other people it may not have made sense, but it got a pretty great response because it was so amazingly well done. Now, pretty much the premise of this video, for anyone who hasn't seen it, if you haven't, I implore that you do, it's pretty much who we are as wrestling fans, at least like internet fans and stuff like that. Like, we love wrestling, but we're the only ones that are allowed to hate on it. With, you know, Roman Reigns getting the big push and this or that. It was just such a great video. What went into the writing for that video? What was the idea behind it and filming it? Just tell me all about that experience.
I'm trying to remember what year that was, because I don't watch as much week to week, but I usually I try to watch the big pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. So that
I think it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that video came after it was like 2 years of having, because I always have like a Royal Rumble party where we have a bunch of people over and we draw numbers and everything and we bet on it. And I know there was like 2 years of me having people over who weren't really wrestling fans. They were kind of just, you know, coming over to bet and have a good time and joke around. And I would always be so pissed at the end of it, and no one would understand why I was pissed. They're like, why do you care that John Cena won? I was like, I got no problem with John Cena. He just doesn't need this push right now. He doesn't need this. Like, just like freaking out about this stuff. And yeah, so I just thought it was really funny that the person who liked wrestling the most would end up being the angriest at the end of these pay-per-views. and everyone else would usually just have a pretty good time because they don't watch wrestling, so they would see, like, you know, cool physical feats, some cool stories, some shocking stuff, some wrestlers they've never seen before, and, you know, they go home. But the wrestling fans, they're miserable half the time. And so I kind of wanted to, I guess, make fun of that and make fun of myself a little bit.
Yeah, it was great. Like I said, the timing was awesome. It went up right before WrestleMania, and you were bringing up a lot of relevant topics. And it could not have been more true either, because like you said, wrestling fans are miserable half the time. So I thought it was perfect. You said it before, but you kind of keep up with the current product. You said you watch once in a while. What are your thoughts on the current product compared to when you first started watching over 20, 25 years ago?
I mean, I think it's awesome, and my kind of the time I was most in it was when I was a little kid. But then in college, I got really back into it. Like, I was really into like TNA when it was like AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe feud, and when like it was like Petey Williams and Shark Boy and Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley and all those guys. So I was really into like indie wrestling and everything, and well, I guess not indie; they were like the second biggest promotion or whatever. But you know what I mean. And so to kind of see the two eras that I really loved about wrestling kind of come together now with like NXT, and I feel like the WWE product has actually steered a little bit more now towards like what it used to be rather than like Attitude Era stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome. I truly don't know why I don't follow week to week. I think I'm just a nerd about it. Like, I always read up on it instead of watching, which is an absurd thing to do.
You're far from the only one who does that, though, because there's just so much content. It's very difficult for a lot of people to keep up, especially with there being 3-hour Raws and 2-hour SmackDowns and the 4-hour pay-per-views and stuff like that. It's really hard to keep up on. But you mentioned TNA there, and it's pretty cool that you guys will be on the same channel. Now they're like Impact Wrestling. They've changed their company name like 3 or 4 times, and I think now they're GFW or something. But when I saw you guys were going to Pop TV, I thought it was pretty cool because they were initially on Spike, and they went to Destination America and a few other channels, but currently they're on Pop TV, and you guys will be on Wednesdays, they're on Thursdays. So were you aware of that at all, that you guys will be sharing the same channel with Hot Date as Impact Wrestling as TNA, and what's that kind of like for you, being a former TNA fan?
I did see that. I think that's really cool. I think perhaps I'll try to figure out some situation in the future where I can get thrown through a table or something. That's always been my dream, is to like do what Jon Stewart did, but instead of like affecting the match positively, just getting my ass kicked by like a real low tier guy, because that's what would happen, right? Like, comedians always, and like, you know, they have celebrity guest hosts and everything, they always like come out and they'll like, you know, I don't know, like help beat somebody, or like the guy from Arrow will come and he'll win some tag team match. But it's like, no, these guys are the wrestlers. If I'm in a wrestling ring, I should be getting my ass kicked. So I'd like to go on and get my ass kicked. I've got an open invitation to kick my ass.
That would be pretty cool to see. I think you know what? It's very much possible, because from what I've seen of TNA in recent months on Pop TV, there's a lot of synergy there with their shows. They'll constantly promote other shows on Pop TV. They'll bring in other people from other shows on the network. I think Schitt's Creek might be a show on there. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, it is.
Schitt's Creek, they just debuted a new show. It's about some 2 muscled up guys. Are you aware of that at all, or what it might be called?
Is it? There's a show called Swedish Dicks. Is it that one?
That probably is it. They mentioned Swedish Dicks quite a bit. That might have been what it is, but they've brought in people from other shows on the network, on Impact, and they'll be in the crowd, or they might do an angle with one of the wrestlers. So, and Petey Williams just came back, so it's very possible we could see a Murphy and Petey Williams match, maybe at the upcoming Bound for Glory pay-per-view. I guess we'll see.
I'll come out, I'll be doing a promo for my show. Everyone will be booing because I want to get back to wrestling. Petey Williams will come out and Canadian Destroyer me, and then I'll just get taken out on a stretcher.
That sounds glorious. Yeah, taking a Canadian Destroyer would be pretty freaking sweet. And I don't know why wrestling fans do that. You just hit the nail right on the head. Every single time someone comes out to promote their show, they'll get booed. Wrestling fans are very weird. We talked about that before, but someone comes out to talk about their television show, but if it's not wrestling, they'll boo it. They're like, woo, woo, boo, we want wrestling. And then, but once you get your ass kicked, then I guess they'll start cheering again because it's back to what they want to see. That's just the nature of the business. Have you ever been to any shows before?
Yeah, my first show ever was when I was in 5th grade, so I guess it was probably like 1995. I know the main event was Shawn Michaels versus Vader. It was at some pay-per-view. I can't even, find... It was when pay-per-views had, random names.
Oh, like the In Your House shows?
It wasn't even... It might have been In Your... Because they used to do In Your House, and then have, a name for the event.
Yeah, yep.
And it was like Big Bang Boom or something like that. It was really weird. It could have just been the name, they could have just given a name to a tour or something, but I thought it was televised. But yeah, I saw, who was there? It was the Smoking Guns went against the Godwins. Mm-hmm. That was when Smoking Guns were heels. And then, I know Shawn Michaels and Vader were the main event. And I'm trying to think what else. I've done a few house shows over the past few years, and I've been to Raw, I think, once. I went to Raw, I think, when I was in college in, 2008. So I've only been, 5 or 6 shows.
All in the Los Angeles area, or having been here from, from where were you originally from here, from the Northeast?
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, okay. So
I went...
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Most of the ones I went to were in New York. Although, we also went to a house show, because you saw New Day is going to be on Adam Ruins Everything, or they were just on Adam Ruins Everything.
Yeah, they were just on, I think, this past week or the week before, yeah.
Yeah. So Xavier Woods is a fan of Adam, and, hooked Adam up and got, a bunch of us tickets to a house show, and we sat, second row or something. It was amazing. How can I forget about that?
That's so cool. And when you get to see that, who was on that show? Was it a Raw show, a SmackDown show? Are you aware?
Yeah, it was, I think it was, I know it was AJ Styles, Roman Reigns, and I don't remember who the third was in a triple threat match. But, yeah, it was, the house shows now are I feel like back in the day, if you went to a house show or something, or if you watched a random episode of Saturday Night Main Event or something, it would be nothing near what a pay-per-view is. Mm-hmm. And now they'll have I've seen all these John Cena cage matches and stuff, and I'm
yeah.
It's crazy that they'd have the face of the company or something jumping off a steel cage for a house show. But that's what they do now. You got to take it to the next level.
Exactly. I guess you just got to evolve with the business. As we wind down here, a few more questions. Your favorite wrestler of all time and currently, if they're the same person, I guess you can just combine the two. And currently from what you've seen in recent years.
I'd say all time, I'd go with either Bret Hart or Macho Man. Mm-hmm. I think Bret Hart wrestling-wise, I think Macho Man was kind of the perfect combination of everything. He had that, there's just I'm not a huge Ultimate Warrior fan, but you can't deny that he had this insane charisma and was a ridiculous person, and Hulk Hogan's right there with him, and Macho Man's right there with him, and they were these larger-than-life characters, but Macho Man was also an awesome wrestler, and that was he just kind of got everything. And then Bret Hart, like I said, he's just very much so of an era for me when it was I was watching when I was a kid. The good guys were good guys. There wasn't these shades of gray. Good guys weren't attacking each other or cheating or anything. It was just you sat down. Bret Hart was going to be a good guy and he was going to win. And it was this cartoon kind of version of morality and everything. And I liked that.
And also from recent years, anyone who was... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And as far as recently, I mean, as someone who's a fan of AJ Styles years ago, mm-hmm. to finally see him in WWE and having all of the success, it's he's certainly my favorite wrestler in recent years.
Yeah, AJ Styles is a good pick. I can't argue with Macho Man or Bret Hart, too. They're all great. All of them are great in their own way. From that said being, too, favorite match that you've ever seen as a fan?
Favorite match? I would say, Macho Man Steamboat is obviously up there. But my favorite match is probably Bret Hart and Bulldog from, I think it's SummerSlam 92. Yep. Is that the one where they closed out?
Yeah, that is. Yep, you're right. Stadium?
Yeah, that one's my favorite, and especially like hearing the backstory and everything on like the Bret Hart DVD and stuff about how Bulldog was like super hungover or something like that. But as you watch the match and you do see him like whispering, like telling him like kind of what to do, but they just pulled off this brilliant match, and when you hear, everything that went into it, and it was just like unexpected, like Bulldog winning and it being in Wembley and all of the it was like family drama and everything, and they had with Diana there, she was Bulldog's wife, right? And Bret's sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they did the thing at the end where she had to like bring them together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
Great angle. Are you a subscriber of the network?
I go in and out. Right now I'm not, but I was like 2 months ago. Basically, Emily goes out of town, and I'm just going to watch like 10 wrestling documentaries and 2 pay-per-views, and then I'm good for like a few weeks. So right now I'm in my wrestling hibernation mode.
That's great. That's great to hear. Well, final question for you. Every Wednesday is NXT on the WWE Network. You mentioned NXT earlier. NXT's one of the best shows to have, even better than Raw and SmackDown. So if you're not currently watching Raw or SmackDown, I think NXT is the show to watch. The issue is that, it goes up on demand. Later on in the night, you can watch it pretty much anytime. But it airs Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. Same time as Hot Date on Pop TV, debuting Wednesday in November, the first week in November. So I got to ask you this. You got to give 3 reasons here for wrestling fans, for them to tune into Hot Date. What do you got to say to the wrestling fans? Why should they tune into Hot Date?
Okay.
Over NXT.
Number one, you got like 9 hours of wrestling a week, guys. You only got like half an hour, maybe an hour if we do 2 episodes back to back of Murph and Emily. So that's one right there. Number 2, you wrestling fans are all about, pushing these little guys, okay? We're the little guy here, okay? We're the mid-car guy that needs a push. So NXT's already doing really well. They got Triple H helping them out. They got the funding at the WWE. They're doing great. And you got, you need a little sketch comedy in your life. You watch your wrestling, but you watch some other things. You gotta deviate from the norm to get a little spice, so that when you come back to the wrestling, you really appreciate it. So I would suggest you DVR NXT and watch it later in the night after we get you pumped for the start of the night. We're kind of the pregame, and then you can watch people kick each other's asses.
That's perfect. I could not have said it any better myself. I think you hit the nail right on the head right there. You got to push the mid-carders. You got to give them a bit of a push. You guys are the Miz and Maurice of sketch comedy. People got to check it out. The WWE.
There you go. I like that.
That's one reason to watch right there, because you guys are absolutely amazing at what you do. Kind of steal from Chris Jericho, the best in the world at what you guys do. Airing every Wednesday night starting November 8th. No problem, man. Hot Date on Pop TV. It's going to be a great show. People can check out the early episodes already on the College Humor YouTube channel. The episodes have been going up for a while now. I think they air currently every Monday or Tuesday on the College Humor channel. Is that correct?
Yep, every Tuesday.
So the first few minutes of the show, people can check it out every Tuesday. Very entertaining. Very rarely does WWE do comedy right, but Emily and Brian do it just perfectly. So definitely check it out. Like I said, every Wednesday, starting November 8th, 2017, Hot Date on Pop TV. So before we let you go, Brian, anything else we'd like to plug for the people?
Yeah, Emily and I got a book coming out in spring, but I'm sure you'll see more of that on our online presence and everything when it gets time to promo that. But yeah, we got a show coming out, we got a book coming out in the spring.
Very nice. What's the book going to be about?
It's called Hey You Up for a Serious Relationship, How to Turn Your Booty Call into Emergency Contact. And it is a satirical relationship advice book written by Emily and I as kind of borderline sociopathic relationship expert.
That is just phenomenal. One of the best book titles I think I've heard in quite some time. So for that alone, I'll certainly be checking it out. If I just saw the title and the fact that you guys didn't write it, even if I didn't see that you had, in the byline, I'd probably buy it anyway. But knowing that you guys are writing it is certainly going to be a must buy. So Brian, dude, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time. I'll definitely catch you down the road.
Thanks so much, man.